Yes, we are.
How
Welcome.
are you?
I'm good.
How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking.
Of course.
So, you know what? I can
What?
do this on the fly because,
What?
I had to cancel the program and then restart it, and I didn't change this little deal. So we'll do this right here on the fly because today's topic is different than last time, and this one's going to be shark. Let's spell that up. There we go. NAR
Shark?
Shakeup. That is the title for today's episode.
Yeah, good.
So thanks for joining us. I'm Aaron
Jody.
from
Tuttle.
Team Tuttle Realty. So what we've decided to do today is we've seen all the headlines all across, the U.S., all the clickbait stuff, and
Yes.
saying that the whole real estate industry has been turned upside down because of a NAR decision, which is National Association of Realtors, and what that means for homeowners, for the buyers, for the realtors, for the industry itself. It is a can of worms, a lot of moving parts. So we're going to dissect that a little bit, tell you just from our vantage point of how things look from our end. And that way you've got some of the latest news that's not, biased into one direction to get you to watch.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Actual factual stuff.
Right.
Okay. So before we get to that, real quick, let's do the standard check on rates. What do you got for us, Jody?
Yeah. So look, the 30-year fix came down. It's under 7% now. 6.96. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, I like seeing that.
You like it when it's in the sixes?
Yes.
All right.
Of course.
I know who
Anything in the sixes is better than in the
doesn't.
sevens.
And what we'll show you here in a minute is not just psychological.
Right.
It is factual. It's math.
Yes.
I love, in every industry, especially in sales, it's always raw, go team, very
Right.
positive. I'm a math guy. If A plus B doesn't equal C, I don't care how much you try to spin it, it don't work.
Right.
The formula's broken. We got to find some new variables. So we're going to talk about that also here for tonight. Let's do the quick sales here across the greater Oklahoma City metro area.
Right. So this is for a week, last 7 days.
Yep.
So we have new listings, 449 new listings. Oh, that's lots.
That's a lot of listings. And I think
That's a
last
lot of
time we were
listings.
on a couple of weeks ago was also right about that number.
Yeah, it was holding steady about 450. Sold homes was 360. And pending sales was 479.
Yeah.
So between sold and pending, that's more than listings.
What does that tell you?
It tells you we need more inventory.
Uh-oh. And what else that tell you? Because the calendar says March 21st.
That's right.
And that's usually when things are starting to
Spring.
really kick in.
Springtime.
Okay, where are you going, buddy?
Uh-oh.
You were just fine. Go back to sleep. Okay. We got a little Larry on the move.
Oh, boy.
You can see his head.
Come on,
All right,
buddy.
but here, look, the other thing I wanted to point out on that Market Watch was the price decrease.
Yes.
344.
Right.
So that's a
yeah.
function of what?
Well, that's a reflection of the time that we're in right now. We're not like we once were, where there was multiple offers, and I mean, sure, that may still happen on a rare occasion, but right now homes are staying on market 60, 90 to 120 days, and during that time frame, you're going to see at least one, maybe two price decreases, depending on that homeowner situation.
Yeah, and we talked about this at the beginning. Whenever you're wanting to price your home, you got two ends of the spectrum. Like with everything,
Yeah.
there's a middle ground, and
Yes.
there's outliers, right, from one end to the other, and it depends on which one you want to be on. The one is, do you want to price your home for it to sell today?
Today.
The other end of the spectrum, you've got all the time in the world, and I want to sit there until I get the max dollar that I think it's worth, and I'm not budging until then.
Right.
And,
Sure.
and somewhere in the middle, is most of the time usually where it lies. So when you're on either end, it just depends.
Yeah.
If you don't want the stress, you don't want the extra payment, you don't have to deal with it, you want closure,
Right.
you want move on,
Yeah.
sell it for today. That's your price.
Yeah. Today's price.
What can I put the price of my home for to sell it today? Not
That's
tomorrow,
right.
not a week from now, not a month from now. I want it out of here. I want it gone. Obviously, it means a lower price,
Right.
but again, you're going to be saving on the back end by not having to deal with the stress and the extra finances and everything else. Whereas on the other
Correct.
end, if you got all day and that's not a problem for you, and you don't mind paying 2 mortgage payments or whatever, and it takes 6 months or more, that's up your prerogative too.
Right.
So it just depends on what your goal is. All right, but what
That's
we're going to do, we'll tell you some more
Okay,
tips,
buddy.
but what we're really we're going to talk about. He's on the move.
He's got to go down.
Maybe he's got to go, do some business. Let's see. So let's go to the big headline. All right, tying us into the story and the reason why we're here for tonight.
Okay.
All right, this is from CNN.
Oh, yeah.
I will hold my breath on what that would be, but that's called CNN Business.
Right.
And here is the clickbait headline. This is
Right.
what gets people worked up. And, of course, you got to put everything in one title, right?
That's right.
So the 6% commission on buying or selling a home is gone after Realtors Association agrees to seismic settlement.
That's correct.
So, and there's various forms of this same type of deal. But
It's frustrating seeing this.
so this, just so you know, this got the whole real estate world like up in arms within 24 hours. It was kind of like we all went to bed one night, everything was fine.
Yeah, that's right.
Wake up the
Woke
next
up.
day, it's total chaos. It's like
That's right.
It's like the biggest earthquake in the world just went off, and everybody's panicking. Nobody knows what this means, what is going on.
Right.
Realtors are scrambling what to do. They're freaking out. The brokers are getting phone calls left and right, going, calm down.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
One nice thing is that a lot of the industry leaders, a lot of the big brokerages have already been doing Zoom calls with the public, with us as realtors as well, to educate us.
Sure.
So I know we sat in on one with EXP already. I sat in on another one. So getting everybody's take on it.
Okay, so tied into this, because this is important as well.
It is.
And I'm going to do a couple little graphics here, and then we're going to get into the nuance of the discussion.
Sure.
So this kind of sets you up, give a little backstory about where we're at. So this is existing home inventory versus total realtors.
Yes.
Now, realtors being a trademark term, so you could say real estate agents, and we will add another 1 million to this total. So
Right.
the aqua color, little greenish line there at the
Yeah.
bottom, is the total number of realtors. But let's go ahead and add that to be another 1 million. So the total realtors is 2.5 million. Existing single homes at the very end of last year, beginning of this year, that was on the market was about 0.9 million.
Right.
Okay, so if you do the math, that's almost, we're talking, good grief, three realtors, almost, 2.5 realtors to every one home.
Yeah.
So there's far too many realtors in this business than there are homes to actually sell.
That's correct.
All right, now you don't have to be a genius to figure out if you're trying to feed your family,
Right.
right? And this is your career, how do you make that work?
Right.
And
Exactly.
you don't. Honestly, it's not. That's not a sustainable pathway if you can't sell more than 1 or 2 homes a month. Well, if the inventory's not there, what do you do?
Right,
It's total
exactly.
panic.
Yeah.
And this is where I personally, some of these views will be ours.
Just ours.
You know,
Strictly ours,
these will be
not of EXP,
Yeah.
not of...
I'll go ahead and go say all the views, so not some, but all, are not representative of our broker,
Right.
The industry as a whole, but us as Team Total individuals.
Yes.
So, I'm using my common sense cap, my math cap, and everything else. But you're in a situation, this is human nature. You get in a position where it's fight or flight, right? And you get in a position where it's self-centered and or self-preservation, meaning I had to put food on that table no matter what happens. I don't care about anybody else at this point in time. It's about me. It's about survival. This is my career, my industry. I can't feed the family if I don't get a
Right.
home sold this month or this week, right?
Right.
That is a horrible position to be in, because that now opens
There
you
you
up
go.
as a human being to a lot of our flaws: integrity, morals, ethics,
Yes.
doing the right thing. All of that can be thrown out the window when you're in that mindset,
Right.
because you've had a disconnect upstairs, from the prefrontal cortex. Everything goes on in human nature. So I don't personally like the way that's structured. So when people say, are you a full-time realtor or a part-time realtor, and you harp on them for that, like, oh, you're only a part-timer. Listen, you're a full-timer. You want to talk about a gamble? When you're out in a market like this, that is tough to feed your family. So I am not opposed to being a part-time realtor, because, hey, if you can only sell 1 home every couple of months, you can't keep the lights on with that. What are you going
Right.
to do, right? And if your only other option is to tap into more evil behavior to try to force that, that's certainly not an option.
Well, I think what happens is that the buyers, when you're a real estate agent that's hungry, some buyers can pick up on that you're being a little too pushy or maybe too aggressive. Pushing a particular home on them might not even be what they want. I mean, I personally have seen that amongst my colleagues in Canada. So
this is also a graphic of the home sales lost due to the lock-in effect.
yes.
So this is why
Well,
we're tying this all together, because you need to understand the big picture of where the industry is at a whole right now.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of panic among every player involved.
Well, there's a lot of uncertainty, right?
So this is the home sales lost due to lock-in effect by quarter, estimated by the Federal Housing Finance Agency for all of last year
Yes.
and the year before. And you can see every quarter it's less and less and less and
Yeah.
less. And you're going, okay, well, what in the world is a lock-in effect? So this was a nice graph they put together. So they basically had an average mean like plus and minus 10% going back to the 90s. So it was ebb and flow, which is normal in the real estate world.
Right.
That's not unusual.
No.
Yes, you can feed your family in this. You don't have to do crazy tactics or untoward behavior
Right.
to feed your family in this situation. Now look at that huge drop that you see. And I'm going to zoom this in just a little bit, just in case it's harder to see. All right,
Oh, that's better, yeah.
So look at this huge drop there from the top all the way down to
Yep.
about 55% about where homes typically move. So again, that is a massive drop of just what we call a lock-in effect, meaning the interest rates were so good, nobody wants to give up that rate
Right.
and move just for the sake of moving.
There's a huge percentage of folks that have a 4% interest rate right now.
Yeah.
And trust me, they're not selling. They're not moving anywhere.
It's just math. I mean, and I
It
don't blame
is.
them. I mean, I'm in the same boat. I mean, yeah, why would I? You know.
Right.
Now, I will tell you, this is what they're projecting could happen to the
Right.
to the rate. To the effect. So if they said the Feds come in and give a 1 point decrease, then you go up to about a 40% drop in
Yeah.
sales. If the Fed comes up with a 2 point rate decrease, 2 points from where it is now, which
Yeah.
would be monumental and improbable,
Yeah.
you're still only getting maybe to 20-25% lock-in effect.
Yeah.
So we can write off the whole 2 point. The 1 point maybe. I mean, the Fed didn't do rate drops this time around.
No.
Some of the experts think they may do 3, and as you both know,
Yeah.
and I know, we tend they're like usually a quarter at a time. So maybe you're looking at a 3/4 inch drop, over the course of the year, into the
Right.
election.
That's right.
But even if that happens, that's not moving the pendulum, because you're still only at the 40 to 45% range of
Yeah.
still no movement compared
right.
to all years prior. So that's what you call the lock-in effect of where we are in the industry, and that is why
That's
things
why-
are tough right now
Yeah.
for the real estate market.
That's right.
'Cause remember, it's not just realtors. Realtors are on the bottom, of that deal. Realtors facilitate and protect you in the transactions,
Yeah.
but all these other companies, big, huge companies, all have their hands in that whole transaction and in the whole space in general, as far as investing or how things work, and then how they redistribute that information, how this is presented, the data comes up. There's so many different avenues in real estate
Yes.
to give you a big picture, and we're just looking at a very small
But yeah.
part of it on the realtor side,
Sure.
and somehow the media made the realtor to be the bad guy. 6% commission, right?
Yeah, and there's no set commission.
No, there
never
never has been a set commission. You can make the commission anything you want it to be.
That's correct.
It's the negotiation between you and your realtor.
That's right.
And the realtor their job is to tell you what they're worth. I'm worth X because of Y.
Right.
And then it's a negotiation. It's where you guys
is.
talk and you guys say, you know what? You convinced me. I see
Yeah.
a lot of value in you
Right.
in your work.
Yeah.
I'm willing to sign the contract with you to sell my home, and we're going to move
correct.
forward. And that's all it really is.
Yeah.
So what I will agree upon, and this did not make sense to me either. Remember, I'm kind of newer to. You've been in this for 14 years. I only know for a little over almost 2 years, and so for me on the
But
outside,
you're doing really good.
I learned stuff like this. Like
You don't say.
Yeah, we made a comment. I like dive into complex stuff, tackle it, and then go to something else, and
That's
I
right.
tackle it. So I don't know. I'm weird that way. So in this space, I've learned a lot really quickly. Drinking out of a fire hose. But what never made sense to me, and somebody else actually said it more eloquently than I did. It's kind of like when you're thinking it, but you can't quite get the words to really articulate. His point was, in this whole process, how it was set up, why would anyone in the seller position of selling your home pay the other party to then negotiate against you. In other words, to drop your price down.
Right.
So I'm paying you to take money away from me. And that makes no sense. So when you have two parties that are negotiating something, you can't have someone funding both parties. It makes no sense. So in that simplest of terms, I get it. And that needed to be some changes in that environment. Now, what those changes are, we still don't know. Keep in mind,
Nobody knows.
this first off, this NAR settlement hasn't even been accepted. And if it is, and that won't, I think, go into effect until mid-July. And there still has to be a lot of regulation that comes out, both internally with the brokers and the industry as a whole, and then as the government as well. So there's still
There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, there's so many things to get worked out.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, I do see there was a need for change. I personally didn't understand why the seller would pay for the buyer agent to negotiate against them on behalf of their client. It was a strange setup, and I didn't design that, and obviously somebody else thought that was the better way to do it.
Right.
And it was probably to protect or at least help the buyer, I guess is how that was. And
financially.
And for financially. And because that's the one thing I can see is, now in prior markets may not have been as bad. In this market, it's especially difficult for a buyer to bring enough money to the closing table.
Right.
If you have to bring in 10 or 20% closing costs for down payment.
Yeah.
And on top of that, now you have to pay your realtor a few percentage points. I don't know whatever it is you use to negotiate, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, to that buyer's agent. That's still more cash out of your pocket. How are you able now to afford that as well? Plus insurance has gone up. And that's the other thing. I was going to show that other map to kind of tie this in. So let me go this way, right here.
Here, yeah.
So this map here,
Yep.
across the country, and you see Oklahoma's blue,
Yeah.
3%. Louisiana is also blue. So we tie as the two states
Yeah. For the highest.
for the highest homeowner insurance cost burden that has gone up monthly.
Right.
And we personally had ours go up in one setting, about 42% from our insurance carrier said, oh, by the way, your homeowner insurance is now up 40%. Excuse me?
Right.
I don't think so. Time to let you go bye-bye and get to shop around, right?
Yes.
But even the new insurance agency that we went with warned us that they're all doing it. It'll eventually get you. You can only hide and run for so long. And this map kind of explains that, Oklahoma is in bad shape. Now, why they do that. If you wanted me to put my weather cap on, I can tell you a lot of that's probably because of the hail and the wind and the tornadoes, etc. But that really hasn't changed in frequency as any time before.
Right. But it's like anything else. Everything goes up.
Yeah, cost of materials and all that kind of stuff does go up. And I don't have time to dive into all that, but that's an element as to why we are paying more. Louisiana probably, with the hurricanes, but you can see other states didn't do that. So there's a lot more to it. And we don't have time for that, nor do I even have the full backstory knowledge of every state's decision insurance-wise as to how that happens.
You might next show.
So here's the other thing, you little turkey. And this is also interesting. So this is how much a household needs to earn to afford the typical home in their local market, as calculated by Zillow.
Yeah.
And I'm going to zoom this in a bit more. It's hard to see.
Yeah.
So there we go. You got San Jose takes the top from 2020 to 2024. They had to make double their combined home income. So 263 has now gone to 454. Yeah. Could you imagine your salary having to be $500,000 just to avoid the same home you were in before?
In 4 years.
In just 4 years? Okay, what's
That's
happening?
okay, buddy.
What's he doing?
Well, he wants to come up.
No, I think he wants her to come down. Okay. Listen, this cutie right here is in heat. Oh, yeah, she just started. So Larry's being Larry, and he's, whining and making noise. So if you hear that, that's what's going on. Okay, so let's go on down to some others on the list. And
Are we on that list?
We are on this list, and that's why.
Okay, well, let's just go right to us.
I know, I'm trying to. How does this thing zoom in?
I don't know.
There we go.
You're the techie one. Believe it or not, I used to be the techie one in our house, in my household.
Not anymore.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
That's really funny.
All right, so Oklahoma didn't make the list. So it used to cost you about $43,000, and now $74,000. So, and this is again for us, for Oklahoma, median house price. So we're talking probably, it depends. I mean, you're probably right around 225 maybe for median home price at 250.
Yeah.
It's because things have changed quite dramatically in the last 4 years, and
Yeah.
that's the why. Otherwise, it'd have been lower. But yeah, so that's kind of the income you're expected to make, which many households, can be struggling with that. That's sometimes not easy
Right.
to achieve, especially for new home buyers.
Sure.
They're
Or single family where it's just one person in the household.
yeah. So that's a problem. So we have the cost of everything going up, right? You got
Yeah.
the interest rates going up. You have insurance going up. It's making it very stressful for a home buyer
Yeah.
in that situation. Now, all of a sudden, you tackle in the seller no longer wants to pay for the buyer to get into the home market to buy their home, and I understand that process as well. So, now we're getting to the weeds of the debate and the
Yes.
discussion. The seller says, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Agent, I don't want to offer any commission to the opposing party. If they can afford to buy my house, that's great, but I'm not going to help them bid against me, and I'm not giving them any commission for their work.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Totally valid. You can do that. It's
Sure.
not a problem. The realtor then is obligated now to discuss what that may mean
Yes.
if you do go down that path.
That's right.
It's your right to do it. Do you want to do it? Is it financially, does that make sense to you to do it?
Right.
And that is where that discussion needs to happen with your realtor. And they will provide you various reasons as pros and cons as to doing that.
That's right.
And it may end up not helping you, or it may help you. It's going to be that sensitive conversation that needs to be had, just because of all the varying factors and moving parts of this whole process.
Well, there's going to be a lot of uncomfortable conversations that need to be had even with the buyers.
Yeah. So what our industry did do then, because there's not really much to that decision. So
Right.
in other words, okay, I got it. The seller doesn't pay the commission. Fine. Okay. So how do we work with that?
Right.
So the shift now from the broker standpoint and from the industry standpoint is, okay, agents, listen, you need to be doing what you should have been doing long ago. And that is, what is your value?
Yes.
You're not expressing what your worth is to your clients.
It's because we do a lot of work in behind the scenes that our clients don't ever know about.
Right.
Don't ever see. And we never discuss that. I mean, that's not something that we would think about talking about.
Well, it's because it's like you and your job, right?
Right.
You got trained to do your job, and there's all these things you can do. You don't walk around listing everything that you do for your 9-to-5 gig,
Right.
And it's just like oh, I work at so and so, and somebody goes, okay, great, that's awesome.
Right.
What do you do? Oh, I do this. They don't sit there and go, well, at 9:05. I do the Pythagorean theorem, and then I go to my geometry. They don't do any of that stuff. So on the realtor side, that doesn't happen either. But just for example,
Yes.
so we have 3 pages
Yes.
of 6 fonts. I can't even read this. How small this is.
Right, but
Of
there's a
all of
lot.
these columns of lists
Yep. Our value.
that we do for every single transaction, and that's over 200 individual items listed just on this list alone.
That's right.
And that is all in the process of knowing all the regulations, knowing what happens in this whole process of buying and selling, and what to watch for, all the moving
Right.
players from aligning up the inspections, the appraisals, looking around,
All
what's
the communication,
what's
all the
wrong with the
marketing.
home,
Yep.
what needs to be fixed, repaired, what to watch out for to make sure you don't get scammed, one
Yep.
thing after another, right?
The lenders. We're arranging everything.
Right. So that is a mouthful that the agent now needs to tell their client, either side, home or
Well,
the seller or the buyer.
That's right. We have to show our value.
Show your value, show your worth, because you're negotiating what you're getting paid.
Right.
So think of it this way: you are entering into a mini contract as a work for hire. So in other words, you'll come to Team Tuttle and you'll say, "Hey, I want to hire
Hi.
you."
What's going on?
So focus over there. I want to hire you. She's looking for her squeaker toys. That's what it is.
Okay, well, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, no.
Put her
Here,
down.
put her down. Maybe Larry will distract her. Okay, so where were we? Okay. Somebody's got to pay attention.
I was.
To Penelope. Okay, so anyway, like what I was saying. So anyway, you have everything that you're worth that you have to
Yes.
get in. Okay. Oh, the contract. So
Right,
you
the
say, hey,
contract.
I want to hire you. So what
Yeah.
you're doing is a temporary case of employment. So you're employing us.
Yes.
Right. for services rendered.
Yep.
So you enter into a contract. That's a binding contract. And you say, okay, we will do all these things that we're promising you in an effort to find you the home of your dreams and or sell the home at the best value in exchange for XYZ compensation.
Yes.
So
That's
is what
correct.
you're going into. So that is really the way it should have always been on both sides.
It's always been available.
Yeah, it's
I
just
mean,
not mandatory.
It's not mandatory, but it's
Right.
gonna be.
Well, and it has to be, and it should have been. So we decided that long ago to make that mandatory for us. And this, I'll tell you an example as to why. No one can feed their family or keep the lights on working for free. All right.
Are you part cat?
Hey, psst, focus over here. We're doing a show. This is having animals. Wow, this is wildness. I'm trying to do a serious conversation over here.
I actually have little Larry at my
Okay.
leg trying to paw at me to get picked up.
All right, you should pick him up.
I will.
Maybe then she'll settle down.
Right. Okay.
I think
Come on, buddy.
she saw the chickens, so now she's.
Come on, buddy. Well, you picked her up pretty high.
I know. Well, because there's mountain climbing over there. She's trying to find her chicken.
Okay. Yep. Oh, boy.
goodness.
She's gonna.
This show has gone off the rails. This is supposed to be a serious show, and then, okay, I can't even see her.
She's good.
she's like right below a little banner. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So where were we? Because if I give it to her, she's gonna squeak, and then she's gonna squeak the whole show. Can't
I
have
know.
it.
I know.
I know. Oh,
She's fine.
Animals, pets. Okay.
There are kids. There are littles.
Jody, I need help here.
Yes. So we're talking about the buyer broker
Yes.
employment
Yes.
form.
That's correct.
That's correct.
All right. I gotta stop looking at her. Okay. The dog that is.
That's right.
Okay. So
So it's going to be a buyer broker
employment agreement.
employment agreement.
So this should have always been industry practice.
Yeah,
And the
it
reason
should
why
have been.
I was going with that was because of working for free. All right.
Yes.
So just so that you know, and this is the horrible secret in real estate that no one knows. Are you ready? Are you ready to know this secret in real estate that no one talks about? Every realtor works for free. And you're like, what? Yes. Every realtor works for free until that home is closed on.
Right.
At that point in time, when the funds transfer, then they can get paid. But prior to that point, all the way, no matter how long it takes, how many months go by, there's no money coming in. There's no revenue.
Right.
There is no income. There
That's
is
correct.
nothing to pay the tax man, the bill man, the milkman, nothing.
That's right.
Do you want to live in that environment? Let me tell you, that is rough.
Well, I think that's why there's so many female real estate agents or real estate agents because their male husbands, partners, work full time.
Yeah, it could have been that's how it started, and it may be
Yeah.
50-50. We don't know the numbers on that.
There's
but
a lot of women.
it would make
there's a
sense if
majority of
one
women.
partner has a full-time job and then you have this other part-time job because you can still take care of the kids and the
That's
family and
right.
all that kind of stuff. That would make sense. If you want to talk common sense without looking at numbers. But the bottom line is, and what I need you to understand is, without that contract in place, your realtor has nothing.
Correct.
Absolutely nothing. There's no guarantee of anything.
Right.
And because things happen, right? So I think what we're going to see is an industry shift where there's going to be retainers, fee for service,
Yep.
other things that come into play so that they can at least keep the lights on while they look for you for your home.
Right. I think there'll be tiered services.
Yeah,
being
there's
offered.
so much discussion as to how this is all going to settle out.
Well, and really, you can design your own business platform.
Yeah, I mean,
We're our own.
yeah, there's a lot of freedom in how you want it to design that.
Yes.
When I first approached, I looked at her. I said, "No. This is gotta be like attorneys. You have to have a retainer because you have to have some money coming in up front in case the buyer ghosts you and just
Yeah.
disappears, right? And then you're left holding the bag of nothing. And you did over a period of months. I mean, you can't survive. That's not a business.
Right.
That is not an income. That is not a job. That is a begging for a food handout, 6 months down the road when you realize, oh, I never brought anything in the income world.
Right.
So that model was never good. So you had to think outside the box of how do you survive in this industry. Now, in the prior days, either through the craziness of COVID and the 3% interest rates, and or somewhat in the past where things were more stable, that wasn't as much of a problem.
Well, that's where the influx of real estate agents came into play.
Right. And so that
They thought it was
circles back.
fast, easy, quick.
Then that circles back to how we started this broadcast. I wanted you to see the
Right.
big picture. 2.5 million agents out there in
Yeah.
the field for only, I forgot, was it 600?
89.
89?
88 million, I think.
Yeah, 89,
was 80.
yeah. So about 90 million homes.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
No,
So
it's-
this will probably, not that I want to see that, but it might weed out a few agents.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fair.
So what that looks like is the agent does a couple things. Either one, just quit because it's too much.
Yeah.
There's no job. You know,
Right.
it's just I'm paying dues out to all these real estate components and agencies, but I got nothing coming in.
It's just because there's
So-
not enough inventory
Right. Well, because
right now.
you can't sell a house that's not there, right? So what do? Well, you either sit there and wait and hope one comes and work your tail off trying to get there,
Well, sure.
or you freeze it.
That's right.
Or you quit. Those are your three options. So this industry, you're going to get a lot, I think, of all three. You're going to get probably some consolidation groups just hammer to the floor. We got to get what's out there because there's not much.
This might be a great opportunity for a lot of agents too.
As in what?
As in being a buyer's agent, buyer specialist, show your worth, show your value. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what? The point on that is, I think, this is my prediction. Remember, this is all
It's our-
this is
yeah.
our personal opinions and predictions, right?
Right. Not of EXP.
Right, or any other brokerage or any other part of the industry, just from what we see and how it works. We, or at least I, predict that there will be a lot more real estate agents wanting to represent the seller than there will be the buyer. Now,
Right.
why do you say that? Well, because this industry has said nothing about the seller and the seller agent relationship. It's about what happens with the buyer and the buyer agent's relationship, and that is a difficult place to be because, again, the buyer doesn't have that money to come in. So now you're going to have to find creative ways to where the buyer can come up with funds to
Right.
pay the agent to represent them.
The seller can still offer commission though.
Yeah, the seller can always do what they want.
Yes.
And
The
that's the
seller
deal.
can
They're
still
just
do
not
that.
forced to do it. So they were never forced to offer a specific amount.
No.
They were just forced to pay an amount to the other party. So that's the only thing that's changed. That's no longer forced. The seller can still choose to pay the other party, however they want to do it, or how much they want to do it. So that
There's always been a choice.
Right.
The sellers have always had a choice.
But the issue is agents, and this is where it comes to part. Some agents aren't comfortable in their identity or who they are and persuasive enough to have that adult conversation to say, hey, I hate to do this to you, but we need to have a little one-on-one, and I need to tell you my worth because I'm going to ask you at the end of this conversation for some set amount to pay for my services.
That's
and
correct.
that is an uncomfortable conversation to have because you're not selling a product. You're not going, hey, look at this little tub. It's got this little nice little label and it does wonders for everybody. And it's this price. You're not doing that. You're going, this is the label. This is the moving parts.
This is what I'm worth.
This is what I'm worth. And for somebody to tell someone other what their worth is and with a dollar sign attached to it is extremely difficult.
Well, you have to have the confidence in yourself.
Yeah. Okay,
to
so
be able
that's
to discuss that.
So that's one aspect of this contract that you're going to be going under with your buyer agent. The other is you will have an agent that doesn't have any worth. Meaning they are the worst of the worst.
Okay.
They are horrible agents. They do a terrible job. They thought they were in it for a quick buck. It turns out it's a lot of work and they don't do any of it. You will find those agents. Now, that's the other position you're going to be in. And what do you do with those agents? Well, hopefully you can pick those off and go, whoa, I don't really want to work with you because you're terrible. I don't even know what I'm getting out of this relationship.
Well, not
And that
everybody.
and that would weed some of those out. No, of course not everybody. So I said there's a couple of groups here. One is you have to know your worth and you got to present that. And the other is you don't
Yeah.
have worth because you're a really bad agent.
Right, but even with me when I interview my buyers, I might not even want to work with them because I might not mix well with them.
Well, sure, that's a whole nother element.
Right.
That's not even based off your worth.
That's
or
right.
the good or bad job an agent would do.
That's right.
That's just based off of personalities and relationships, just
Yes.
any other. So that's another. That's another moving part.
It is.
To this whole thing.
It is. Do you work well with that agent that you're hiring? You know.
And the funny thing is, this isn't anything new. This is just a lot of the uncomfortable things that agents didn't have to do. That was okay. So for example, let's say you've got this job and you can do 99 things of it. You are qualified to do all 99, but there's that one you can't do. You don't feel comfortable doing it. It's not you. It's just you can't do it. You can't get over it. That is the thing. You know, that could be the thing for the real estate agent. They may be great at everything else, but when it comes to telling you what I'm worth, I can't have that conversation. That's something they're going to have to get over.
Yes.
Because that's not where we are anymore.
No, it's changed because these forms are going to have to be signed by the buyers prior to even looking at homes.
Right.
So that's going to be right off the bat when I know when we're going to have our meetings with our buyers, it's something I'm going to present right away because we cannot go and show homes.
That was the thing I was going to bring up is, okay, so let's say, you know what, I don't even want a buyer's agent. I want to mess with that. I don't want to pay them. I can't afford it. I can do it on my own.
Right.
Even though you're going in cold and you have no idea what the process is, let's just say that's what you want to do. All right. And you say, okay, you knock on the door and you want to have this agent from the seller side show you the home. You can't do that. You have to have representation for that agent to let you in because it's a safety thing. It's an insurance thing. It's a whole other thing. So you have to have representation to be shown for an agent to come in and show you that house.
Right.
Now you can look online and see pictures and all that kind of stuff for free and no problem. You don't need an agent for that. But if you want to actually walk in the door and get a feel for it, smell it, see it up close, you know, because pictures can lie, you know, pictures can mislead, they can embellish, and you want to see reality, unfortunately, you have to have an agent to do that. And that's the rules. We don't make the rules, but that is the rules, and it's obviously for everybody's safety. You know, and when you do hire that agent, you're going to have a background, you know, that's quality for that agent. You're going to have a driver's license. You're going to have income. You're going to have to be pre-approved.
Right.
So no more, let me find a buyer's agent. Let me go look at a bunch of houses and tell them without being pre-approved, because that's not going to happen either.
No.
You're going to have your bank have you a letter that says, look, you can afford this house. This is your credit in good shape.
Yeah.
This is your ID, meaning
your...
you are who you say you are.
Yeah.
And you're wondering, why would you do that? We didn't even realize this, how much fraud goes on where people pretend to be someone else or steal their identity to do this. And then they ghost the realtor somewhere in the process and like, what? You weren't even Mr. Smith? You were somebody else? But you had a license, you had an ID, you know, or whatever, the fill in the blank. So you have to have all of these proper valid identification documents to even get to that point. So it's going to be a lot more work.
Well, that's what I used to do in Canada.
Yeah.
We always had to have a piece of ID for anybody writing a contract. Listing a house or selling a house. ID.
So there are a couple of ways, you know, if that this can go different directions. So there will be some new regulations for VA loans, FHA loans, you know. So the government's gonna have to step in to fix the gaps where things are messed up. So we won't worry about that because that will work itself out.
For the VA and
but as far as like commissions, for example, you can have it where, let's say, you know, you say, hey, Team Title, I want to buy a house, but I can't afford your full commission, right? I can pay 1%, you know, of what we're approved for.
For whatever is comfortable for you.
Yeah. And then, but on the other end, the selling agent and working with the seller may end up offering, say, you know, I'm just throwing out a number, you know, say you guys, and this is how it works because we can't tell you numbers, but I can give you hypotheticals. All right. So hypothetical, let's say it's 3%. All right. You come to the buyer's agent. The buyer agent said, hey, my services, I'm worth 3% of the total price of this home coming up.
I'm worth X amount.
We're looking at. All right. And let's say you've got, you know, 1X of that. So 1% of that is all you can afford. It may be where the case where the selling agent offers 2%. And then that fills the gap. So that can happen where you can still have a combination of two different parties helping to offset and pay the realtor fees to doing all the works if they don't work for free.
Because one of the biggest changes is going to be how it's all entered into our multiple listing service, MLS system. So they're getting rid of the compensation to the buyer's agent. So that's not going to be on the back end anymore. That doesn't really matter for you, Mr. Seller, or you, Mr. Buyer, but it does for other agents, other real estate agents.
Right.
So that'll all be eliminated as well. So it doesn't mean the sellers moving forward don't have to pay a commission. We're wanting to keep it all still flowing the same way. You want to sell that house?
Yeah.
Right?
One thing that really wasn't a big thing but may come back is dual agency. So dual agency is where you have the same realtor that represents both parties.
Yeah.
And at first, your first thing should be a red flag on, isn't that a conflict of interest? And you're like, yes, that would normally be a conflict of interest. So you have to have ground rules set. So let's say, for example, we would represent the seller. So our interest is always going to be on the seller's behalf. Now, we are obligated to follow the law and do everything ethical and moral on the other side as well. So it's not like it's going to be a bad thing for the buyer coming in. It just means that our interest and what we're trying to on the negotiation side is going to be on the behalf of the seller versus on the buyer. But that is called a dual agent, as long as you're okay with that. So for example, you didn't really care about the price. You liked it. It wasn't a contention point for you. You just wanted the house. And you don't have an agent. You walk in the door, says, you know what? I understand you're agent X and you're representing buyer or seller Y. I want to be your client too. How can I make that happen? You say, okay, well, that's a dual agency where I represent both of you. But again, my main concern here is for the seller. Are you okay with that? And you say, you know what? Totally fine with that because I love the house. Great spot, great location. It's just what I'm looking for. And it's in the price range that I can afford. Not even going to contend it. Let's do it. And then the thing is done. So that is an example of dual agency gone very well and done professionally by the agent.
That's correct.
What you do not and what you do want to watch out for is an agent that tries to force dual agency on you. So for example, let's say you do know enough about the process of buying a home. Maybe you're an attorney in your situation where I don't need the agent because I've got enough sense. Maybe I'm a contract writer that I can read contracts and I can Google whatever, and you decide that's what you want to do. And the agent says, oh, no, you have to have dual agency and you're going to have to pay me XYZ. You need to report that agent immediately because that's fraud. So no, you have to play by the rules and you have to be aware of that kind of stuff.
That's right.
All right, so let's go a couple of these key points and then we're going to wrap this up.
Right, yes.
It's a good topic though.
Well, there's a lot to discuss.
And I was like, this is going to be a long show. You're like, no, it'll be short. I'm like, there's so much to discuss.
Well, Judy Mars says we're doing a great job trying to explain all this mess.
Good. Excellent. Thanks, Judy. We're doing our best.
And Emily Welker, do you all know about USDAs?
So okay. So in those government loan programs, that's all going to have to be worked out with, the government's going to have to come out and remake rules and figure out financing and costs, et cetera, et cetera.
But we have someone that you can talk to, Emily.
Yeah, but as far as just the general principle of USDA, just like what it already is and what it does, we can get you that information.
Yes.
You can send us a DM, vice versa. We'll get you up with our lender, and they can tell you all about it and all the requirements and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, so headliners, clickbait, we kind of talked about that.
Yeah, we kind of talked about all that.
Real estate commissions are being slashed. Selling your house will now be less expensive.
Oh my gosh.
No more paying 6% to real estate agent. All that kind of stuff. Those are all gimmicks.
It's all clickbait.
Clickbait stuff. Now, remember, you can...
all misinformation.
You can select any percentage that you want. You can pay your realtor 20% if you wanted to. There's no set rule. You can pay them whatever you guys agree upon is really what it is.
But, again, nobody really knows how all this is going to end up in the grand scheme of things. We don't know how it's all going to play out.
Well, yeah, because they still have to agree to the settlement, and then they have to redo all the rules.
So it's still subject to court approval.
It's going to move very fast, though, because it has to.
Well, mid-July.
Yeah.
So
mid-July is when procedurally it happens, but in people's minds, it's already happening.
Yeah, sure.
Government always is slower than reality, so that's why everybody is in a panic because they have to figure out how to adjust today, not adjust 6 months from now or 3 months from now, but adjust today. Because as soon as Mr. Seller says, "I don't want to pay a commission,"
Yeah.
Well, guess what? You can't say, well, Mr. Seller, you're going to have to wait till July. Because no, you have the choice of not paying zero. You always have.
You've always had that choice.
So as a realtor, you can't say, nope, hold that thought. We got to wait till mid-July to deliver the death settle. No. You got to have your game plan now. So
That's right.
Yeah. All right, let's go.
So
Simple terms. You want to repeat those?
simpler terms. So sellers and their agents. So sellers and the agents won't be allowed to offer a commission to buyers' agents within the listing.
Okay, so gee, that made no sense. So MLS is the listing service that we use.
Multiple listing service,
And
yes.
that's where we have all the home details and the pictures. And then that gets
That's right.
pulled from there to Zillow and Redfin, all these other places.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's the main data bank. In that main data bank, you cannot enter the seller will pay X% interest to the buyer's agents.
Correct.
You can no longer do that. You could do that in the past. Now you
Correct.
can't. That's the big change that NAR has proposed.
Yeah.
All right.
However,
But you can still call the agent, agent to agent, and say, hey, is your seller offering any commissions
Yep.
on this property? And that agent can say, yeah, they're offering whatever. And then you go, okay, thanks. Now, the issue is, it's information that's too little too late, because you already have to have a buyer agreement with your client, your buyer. You already have to have that in place with an agreed upon amount you're getting paid. So it's not like you can wait to go see what a house is going to be paying before you agree to what you're going to get.
Right.
That didn't work that way. You have to come up with your worth first. This is what I'm worth. This is what you pay, regardless of what this house is paying.
and are some people going to want to do that and pay your worth? No, and that's fine. Give them a nice handshake and wish them well.
Yeah, it's no love, no loss. I mean, there are some people
Right.
that want a bargain basement, discount agent. That
Right.
does very little, therefore only charges very little. Some people are going to want that.
Yeah.
And then others like, no, man, I want to be protected from start to finish. I
Right.
don't want to have to worry about anything.
Right.
You do you. I saw your list of 100 things you've got to
Yes.
accomplish. That's your specialty. I respect that. I don't want you coming to my job and demanding a discount on my
Right.
services.
That's
I know
right.
what I'm worth, so why would I expect the same for you? So
That's
no,
right.
there'll be others in that aspect too.
That's right.
All
Exactly.
right, what's another one?
However, that doesn't mean that a seller isn't allowed to pay a buyer's agent a commission. It just can't be published in a listing. So we've already sort of covered that.
Okay, third one.
And buyers will now be required to sign a written agreement with an agent in order to work with them, which will likely require them to agree to a certain amount of compensation.
I like this last line. It doesn't mean that the compensation has to be paid out of the buyer's pocket.
It could be agreed upon amount that will be negotiated into the purchase price paid for through the proceeds of the sale.
This is where things can get really creative, because there's certain rules, like even current
Right.
lenders. It depends on the state. There's different conditions like RESPA, all these other things that you have to
Right.
abide by. And so sometimes, like my simple answer was, well, we'll just take whatever the buyer was going to pay
Yes.
the agent, put it in the loan, and roll it over and do it. Yeah, I can't do that. At least not to this point. Maybe
Right.
in July you can.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some changes to help the buyer, because otherwise this does not make it easy on the buyer. And given in today's market, that's
Right.
the last thing the Fed wants, the government wants, the real estate market wants. So like I said, it's a lot of news headline for something that's always been there, but it might force a change that needed to happen anyway, but it's an ugly process to get there.
Copy that.
All right, so again, it doesn't mean you can't offer compensation to a buyer's agent.
Right.
Yep, discuss that. Okay. Although you can't publish how much you're willing to offer or agree on your listing, in most cases, it will still benefit sellers to offer and be willing to offer commissions to buyer's agents in order to get the most exposure for their home and ultimately the best offers possible.
Yes.
Because the more agents, the more buyers that see your home, then the more offers you can get, and
That's
therefore
right.
typically the better price you get. So it's a deal where it's a weird deal. You might end up, okay, so let's say hypothetically, you say, you know what, 0% interest, and I want the home price the way it is. And then now you don't get the home price the way it was. Maybe it drops by 5%, all right? And that's the best offer you can get, and you have to take it. Whereas, again, hypothetically, maybe you had a buyer's agent percentage in there, and all of a sudden you had a lot of eyeballs on that property, and not only did you get your asking price, but you got 2% higher. So at the end of the day, you netted a win at the end by offering a compensation. So again, that's just a hypothetical example that has happened a billion times over, but that's just what can happen in a situation.
Right.
All right, so let's go to the next group.
So don't expect agents to be willing or able to work for a much lower commission than they've been working for in the past. According to recent data from the National Association of Realtors, which is NAR for short, the average agent earns between 44,951 and 58,528.
Okay, hold up. 44,000
44,000
and 58,000.
and 58,000, and they work long and hard to earn that. There's rarely a day off, a vacation, right?
Yeah, so that's the other thing is,
And they easily work past 40 hours and a lot longer than just 9 to 5.
right. So will you be able to find an agent who will work for lower rates?
Right,
Yeah, I'm sure
perhaps.
you'll always find somebody, but as a case in any industry, go with the lowest option.
It might cost you in the
It'll
end.
cost you more in the end,
Yeah.
because you didn't end up saving what you thought you were going to save on the front
That's right.
end, cost you on the back end. But that was a little paragraph just about a realtor's worth and how if you think they're overpaid.
Right.
In this particular case,
Right.
if you worked 40 hours a week and you were paid $44,000 to $58,000 as an individual, and you didn't get to take vacations,
Right.
and you're on call 24/7, 365 every day of the week, no matter where you were, and if
That's
you
right.
went on vacation, guess what? You still got to take your computer. You
Yes.
still got to send documents across. You still got to
Yep.
call sellers. So there is never an off time. So imagine your industry and your workload where at the end of the day, you turn the lights off, you get to go home, relax. You
Right.
can smoke a cigar, have a mixed drink, whatever it is that you want to do.
That's right.
And then imagine that. And the weekends are off. You always have time with the kids.
Yep.
And then now imagine none of that ever.
That's right.
Ever for as long as you live and work in that industry. That's being a realtor. That is not fun.
Well,
And-
you wake up every day unemployed.
yeah, that's true. Because we talk about you work for free to the very end.
That's right.
And if the very end never happens, you've worked for free your entire life.
Yeah.
No one can live or survive or work in that environment. So to take the anger out on the realtor is the wrong way to do it. If you want to be the frustrations on the industry, no problem. There's plenty of that to go around.
Right.
And like I said, the main contention point of the seller paying for the buyer's agent to negotiate against them. Yeah, of course that makes sense. Why was it ever written that way to begin with?
Right.
But as far as the value of a realtor and what they do to earn that money, that's huge. And remember, if you're only able to sell one home a month, remember, and actually we looked at the numbers. You're lucky to sell one home every 4 months. All right, so that's 4 months. So that's 4 houses a year. And let's say your take-home pay is $6,000 on those 4 houses after all the other expenses are pulled out of that, from the brokerage to your own expenses, taxes, you name it. Let's just say it's positive and it's $6,000. You know, that's $24,000 for an entire year. You think that's big money? No, it is not big money.
No.
So in this market, it is going to be hurt for realtors. Okay, so what's the next point? While you may expect sellers to drop their price because they don't have to pay a buyer's agent, don't be surprised if they dig in their heels and expect to get as much or more than similar houses have recently sold for. They will still be basing the market value of their house off the data that had buyer agent commissions factor in. Now, this is weird to us. This is the second time we've heard this. When we do a market analysis for the home, we've never approached or looked at it as with commissions baked in the price. It's what it's compared to every other home based off the amenities, the square footage, all these other factors. So that was never in the training. That was never something we thought of. And I don't even know if that exists. I don't know if whoever wrote this thought that's how it works. I'm not sure. And even if it is how it works, we were unaware of that price is in there.
I price a house as fair market value is what's happening in the
Yeah.
neighborhood.
And honestly, that fair market value typically goes very close to the bank's assessment on the appraisal for what that value is worth.
Yeah, somewhat.
So it's not like the bank goes, well, I'm going to jack up the price to pay for the realtors. They wouldn't do that.
No.
So I didn't understand this part of this guy's talking point
Right.
off the data that he looked at. So, all right, so let's go to the next one. That's you.
Right. So if you go it alone, go in knowing that finding the right house, understanding market value. Okay, so it's big. If you're going to do this on your own, understand the market, understand the market values of the homes. You're negotiating everything on your own, really. That's when you think about it.
I see Luke's comment.
So there's more to buying a house than just finding that house online. There's a lot more to it.
Oh, yeah.
So making an offer and then going to closing. You'll have to do the work your agent would have done. and know what needs to be done in the first place.
And that's the other thing is
So-
the seller agent will not be doing the work
Right.
for the buyer that comes in
Non-existent.
without representation that
Right.
says, hey, I want to place an offer on this house. I do not want to hire you as a dual agent, and I do not want to have a buyer agent. I'm going to do it myself.
Right.
Okay, the selling agent goes, well, good luck with that.
Be
because
informed.
I'm not going to sit there and do everything for you. I'm not getting
That's right.
paid to do it. So you need to go find somebody to pay to do it for you or do it yourself.
right.
That's going to be a very interesting thing to try. There may be some that can do it, pull it off, and there's going to be others that try and fail miserably and go, oh, this is a lot more work than I thought it was going to be.
Right. Well, that's why we're trained. That's why we do the schooling. That's why we go through so much exams, so much training throughout the year.
Yeah, and you have to have continuing education too. You can't just like one and done.
No.
It's a requirement to get X number of hours
Always
in
training.
every year over various topics
That's
that
correct.
constantly get updated or changed in our industry.
That's correct.
Okay, so while it's impossible to predict exactly how everything will play out, there are a few things to keep in mind whether you're buying or selling.
Right.
So there you go. All right, the takeaway, and then we'll wrap this up.
Takeaways, really what we already discussed. While the headlines about changing real estate commission structures might sound exciting and like a potential game changer for you as a home seller or buyer, they are very misleading because nobody knows exactly how things are going to play out. While it's true that commissions may shift, the details still remain uncertain.
Now,
We
we've
know
given you,
that.
yeah, we've given you some examples of how that may end up going.
So if the proposed settlement is accepted by the courts, sellers won't be able to advertise agent commissions. However, they'll still be allowed to offer them, just not within the listing. In many cases, this will still benefit the seller to do so in order to get the most exposure for their house and sell it for the most money possible.
And the last point,
Yeah.
buyers will be given the option to work with the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
However, that could come with some unexpected downsides and difficulties that may
Right.
not produce the savings they anticipate
Yeah.
if you decide not to work with one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you'll still be able to hire your own representation and have an agent looking out for your interests and helping you through the process.
Right.
And that's what we're here for, and obviously that's what the job is for. If it was that easy and you didn't need it, do you think there'd even be any real estate agents at all?
Right.
And that should answer your question.
Exactly.
The fact that government makes things so complicated and difficult. It's almost like, is there a purpose to this madness? Yeah, it's to make it so confusing that no regular Joe off the street can figure it out. So you have to now go to education levels to learn. It's like your CPA. You have to learn all these loopholes and tax credits and all these special things that get you locked up.
And it's forever changing.
And it's forever changing. So once you think you got it, guess what? They change the rules on you again. Real estate's the same way. It's
Yeah.
never constant.
Our forms are changing. And they're always changing for the better.
Yeah, they've already changed. We got new forms at the beginning of the year. Now we're going to get new forms again here in, today, I think, and then another couple months from now, we get more forms
Yep.
as things evolve. So I hope this was extremely educational. So again, this was all our opinion.
Yes.
So anything I said about realtors, the real estate industry, again, doesn't represent our brokers or anyone else. It's just how we view things based off of our experience and what we've seen both on your 14 years of experience, my 2 years plus being on the outside looking in and running other businesses and knowing what's right and what's wrong and what should work and what doesn't and what needs to be better. So sometimes, you know,
Right.
you have to have a fresh eyes, right? We have a great builder friend of ours. We were looking at his house the other day. He was getting it ready to get put on the market, and we're walking around looking at it. I'm going, "Oh, did you guys know you don't have this over here and that over there? And what's this?" It was just a new, fresh pair of
Fresh
eyes.
set of eyes.
Because they probably looked at the house who knows how many times, and you
Right.
didn't even see it because they're used to just glazing over.
Sure.
So that's always a fresh pair of eyes is best on an area where you need them, and what
Yes.
that means is because they're not blinded by the same old, same old. That's everything's new to them. Everything's different. Everything's a color. So they really pay attention to things that stand out. So that's just kind of like a real world example. But at the end of the day, just know that going forward, you need to have a buyer's brokerage employment agreement. If you're looking to buy a home, what that means is that you will work with the buyer under a contract that you're bound to. You will pay that buyer's agent a certain amount of money as their commission, aka their income, to work for you during that process. Whether you guys find a house in a day, or whether you guys find a house in 6 months, whether it takes you a year, whatever that may be, that conversation is between you and them, and how that conversation is going to go.
Right.
for
Only
the-
you know what you're worth.
for the rendering of services. It's up to the agent to communicate fairly and accurately what it is they will be doing and what
Right.
their worth is and why they're doing it and what they are obligated to do for you.
Right.
take receipts, both sides. The agent will keep receipts. You as the client will keep receipts, meaning the receipts of communication, emails, text messages, phone calls.
That's right.
You know, make sure there's been movement. Make sure there's effort. You know, are you getting your homes on your listings that you want? Are they in the price range that you're looking for? Are you being, you know, forced to go in somewhere you're not supposed to be? You know, and then do you have your lender? Do you have that pre-approval? Do you have proper identification? So all that stuff is going to be wrapped up in that arrangement in your first meeting. So in other words, you will not be shown any homes until that conversation happens and that document is signed and all of those documents are presented. So that is a big start to the process, which is different the way it's always been. And the reason why it was different before is because agents were afraid if they put that much trouble to it, that much effort at the beginning, you're too difficult to work with. I'll go somewhere else. I'll pick another agent.
But now that it's going to become the mandatory, everybody's going to be implementing it. So it's not just one or two agents now.
So when you work with an agent and they're very timid, they're very unsure of themselves, that is because they've never done this or they're not used to doing it yet. And it's still early for them at defining their worth. So
practice.
It may not mean they're a bad agent.
No.
So when you get that vibe, doesn't necessarily mean they're not right for the job. It just means you're asking a human to do something they've never had to do before. And that is a huge thing mentally to come to. You know, I wear a lot of hats in my other jobs and other things that I do. And there's so many of them. And one of them that I had the most difficult time was because I did everything for free. Like I helped others. So to me, to go helping people for free, to saying somehow, well, then now what am I worth? Because I know I'm worth a ton, but I charge zero. So it was, how do I, you know, assign a price tag to that? How do I bring an income to that? So that was a whole thing for me because I'm not a salesman. I you know, by nature, that's not what I'm trained at. Now, you can be natural at something and because you know your product, right? And you know your worth and you know what you do. So if you know those, that's a salesman, whether you realize it or not, because you're just being genuine. You're being genuine about yourself and your product and everything else. But sometimes that is a hard thing to do because it's like, what am I worth? You know, when somebody says, okay, how many dollars? And you go, I don't know. Never thought about it that way. You know, but it shouldn't be that hard because, and the reason why it is because you have to decide it yourself versus you go to apply for a job and fast food restaurant, and the manager there goes, okay, we're hiring, and it's for $7 an hour. That's what you're worth. You go, okay, you just told me what I'm worth. I'm worth $7 to flip burgers. All right. Now that's different, you know, or you go to some other level of executive, this position pays this, you're worth this because we put you in that position. But for you to come out of the blue and go, okay, I'm over here, this is what I can do, and I've decided I'm worth
X amount,
some random number, pull out of my hat. That's hard. So anyway, so that'll be a conversation you'll have to have with your buyer's agent. Now on the seller side, nothing really changes. It's all the same as it's always been. Agent comes in, represents you, does the best job they can to market the price at a fair value that's going to get, again, from your decision. Are you wanting to price it for selling today? Or do you want to price it to where it can sell 6 months from now and you're good with that? Where are you in the middle of that two ends of the spectrum? So they'll work with you on that, and then they'll work with you, obviously, on the commission. Do you want to offer commission to the other side? We'll understand if you don't. You know, that was the contention of the NAR thing. If you don't, that's cool. We can work with that. If you do, that's great too. It'll probably be in your benefit, in your favor to do that. And again, because it's almost like it's a situation, especially if there's not a lot of government help that steps in or policy change for the buyer to afford this process. It's almost like this. It's like, hey, Jim, I know you wanted to buy my house. I know you can afford it on your monthly payments and stuff, but I know you don't have the money to just walk in the door to change over the keys. You have to have a little extra cash in your pocket for that. I know you don't get it. You know, I know you don't have it. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. As the seller, I'm going to give that to you. Yes, I know I'm giving you cash out of my pocket, but I'm wanting to hand you the keys over to this house. That means a lot to me because I don't want the house anymore because of XYZ reasons or don't need the house, whatever. And I know you do want it. So therefore, let me be human to human, kind to kind. I'm going to do this for you. And there's nothing in the world that says you can't do that as a human being. And yeah, does it make financial sense? Not necessarily, unless, it would hurt you on the back end if you waited too long and didn't do that, right? You had to pay more
Right.
in the mortgage and whatever else that comes along with that. So,
That's right.
human kindness / decency / a gift still may be the best approach in this, even though, yes, legally, you can offer 0. And we'll just have to see how that goes for those maybe that can't give that gift. Maybe they want to, but they're upside down in their home. They got to take what they can get from it, and they don't have the cash to give to the buyer
That's right.
to help them out. Well, let's hope there's some government programs that will help the buyer.
That's right. That's up to the lenders. All right. Let's see.
I'm out of
You've been
juice.
talking for an hour and a half now. Here, you want some water?
Yeah, I do. I'm out of spit. Wait, was there anything in here?
Yeah.
That's much better. Well, it's amazing you can choke with no liquid in your throat.
Yeah. Well,
Just because there's no more water in there.
that's right.
All right. Did we cover everything? Do you have any questions?
No, we covered it well, in great detail.
In great detail. So if you see some posts on Facebook from your realtor friends and everybody's freaking out or posting stuff, everybody's take a deep breath. It's fine.
That's right. That's good.
Just know that there will be a lot less realtors to work with in the
Maybe.
coming months. I'm guaranteeing it. There's no way. The math. I do math. So
Okay.
it's not going to work. Hey, if there's not a home to sell, how do you pay the bills?
I know.
You don't. So you got to get another job. That's what I'm saying. So there'll be
Okay.
less realtors over that. So that'll be the bigger change you'll probably notice. But we're here for you, Team Total Realty. So if you do need help in the form of buying or selling a home,
Yes.
where do they find us?
They find us at our website, teamtotalrealty.com. They can text. It's on the screen.
Yeah, it's over
Where?
here. I got to go this side.
That side?
Yeah, that side.
I'm going to look. No, no, you went the wrong way. Yeah,
No,
there.
good. I got it.
Yeah, you got it. It's under me.
It's under you. Yeah, you can text that number anytime.
Yeah.
And you can text it anytime. You might not get an answer come midnight, but you'll get an answer. And that's the thing is, as a realtor, those phones are on late, and on early.
Oh, gosh. I remember in the Canadian market, I would still be working sometimes 11:30 because we used to have to drive with that offer to a lockbox of that agent's choice, go drop it off, and then they'd pick it up, go get it signed and initialed by their buyers or sellers, bring it back, and then you'd have to go pick it up.
Old school.
Old school.
All right, everything's
Yes.
done via, and then it went to fax, and now it's all electronic, email.
That's correct. Yeah,
text,
it's so much
whatever.
easier now. Anyways,
Okay, that's it for us. Thanks again for
Yep.
watching on this very long extended episode of the Shakeup of the NAR situation. Thanks for joining us. I hope this was very, very
Yes.
educational. Now you kind of know what's going on. You can turn off the news, the clickbait, and then
That's
realize
right.
everything's gonna be fine. And your agent will explain to you when you get to that process, that time to buy or sell. Then you will know exactly what's going on, and they'll have all the details and
That's right.
talk you through it, work you through it.
absolutely.
And like I said, we're here for you anytime.
That's right, we are.
All right, we'll see you on the next broadcast.
Thank you.
Bye.